Welcome back to the Consultancy Growth Podcast. I've got the pleasure today of being joined by Stuart Packham. I've known Stuart for a while, not least in his role as CEO of Rain Group, which is a great sales and training sales training company. And interestingly, I think some time ago we were exchanging, and you said something about Rain.
Yeah,
And I think I was trying to get you to come on one of our training courses.
yeah,
And
you were.
I said, oh, and you said, oh no, we use Rain for that. And I said, oh, they're very good. They're quite expensive, but they are the best.
Yeah,
And you were like, well, that's just as well because I own them.
yeah. It would have been worrying if I'd said something different,
I
wouldn't
know,
it?
yeah, yeah. You don't want to touch them with the barge pole.
Yeah,
Stuart, thanks for coming. And I was wondering if you could start off by just introducing yourself and how you got to where you are now.
of course. Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me along this morning, Joe. And really appreciate. Lovely to see you again. And
Likewise.
also enjoyed our pre-chat about the wonders of Devon and Cornwall.
Yes.
So, which is no better way to start a podcast. So my name is Stu Packham. I am the Group CEO of the Alchemist Group. And Alchemist Group is a private equity backed performance and learning consultancy firm. We're a global organization. We are based in the UK from a head office perspective, but have significant operations in the US and in Australia. And we have three key brands. Our key brands are Alchemist Learning and Development, which is our leadership development go-to-market, Rain Group, which is our sales development go-to-market. And we have just recently, in the last 2 weeks, made another acquisition of the Experiential Learning Group, which is a business I've known for a long time. The Experiential Learning Group brings capability for both Alchemist and Rain Group, and we'll be going through an integration process over the course of the next 6 months. So I've got a load of new wonderful colleagues. Background, which I won't bore you with too much, 25 years in and around the talent space, for want of a better phrase. Vast majority of my career in the recruitment industry, working in Asia and the UK for some big brands. Pivoted from recruitment to executive search to talent assessment and talent management, and then made the foray into learning and development in 2019. So I joined what was a company called Interact, which is kind of a core foundation of what is now Alchemist. And I've been growing the group since October 2019.
Right. So it's Alchemist that sits on top now.
It is indeed.
Okay.
So Alchemist Group is the parent.
Yep. Okay.
And we have, confusingly maybe, an Alchemist brand in the market that's leadership development, and the Rain brand, which is sales development.
Yeah.
So it's and basically we're working through at the moment what that umbrella looks like.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. It's let's jump straight into
Of course.
the tricky stuff. So when you're thinking about what that needs to look like, and obviously you're in the process, so you don't, I guess, you don't want to share the final state, but what types of things are you thinking about when you're thinking about the final state of sort of an M&A, especially when you've got two or three companies in?
Yeah. And we haven't finished yet either. So we've got a very clear M&A plan that we're a buy and build platform.
Yeah.
So what we are scaling through organic and inorganic growth. So I think there's a couple of things. We always have to start with the customer in mind. So there's a couple of really critical things here. We don't just want to become a collection or Frankenstein of brands.
Yep.
Because I think that makes both internally running the business, but also from a customer buying journey perspective, it can make it really complicated. So when we go through an acquisition process during diligence, we will be doing lots of checking, both from a customer diligence and a brand diligence perspective.
Right.
What is the value of the brand? And if the brand has an intrinsic value, we will try and find a way of protecting the brand. But fundamentally, we are trying to line the business up so there are clear service lines, and that those service lines then have a brand attached to them. So what we don't necessarily want is 4 sales development brands in the market.
Yeah.
So Rain, for example, will be our sales development brand. We will then house any other sales development acquisitions we make behind the Rain brand.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I love the way you've put the client first, because a lot of firms think first about, or who am I going to upset internally?
Yeah.
What historically has been the case. And usually whoever's got the the most revenue coming in gets the best say. So it's lovely to hear putting the client first and what makes sense for them.
Yeah, and I think for us too, obviously there is another lens to it, which is often, particularly when you're doing acquisition, the brand has a strong feeling for the staff that you're bringing across and the people you're bringing across. So you got to manage the process with a lot of care.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you've got a team of people that have worked for a brand for 15 years, you can't just go, well, I'm turning your brand off,
No.
because for a lot of people, that's their identity.
Yes.
So there's we apply quite a strong change management process
Right.
rather than just making a knee-jerk decision.
Yeah. Yes, and it's obviously a risk, and again, it's good to hear this because you and I will both be aware of, especially big four firms,
Yep.
more
Yep.
traditionally rather than now. I think they've learned some lessons, but wasting huge amounts of financial and human capital because
Yes.
they've become part of the Borg too quickly, and the
Yes.
Borg hasn't changed itself,
Yep.
and the great people leave.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you've got to manage both. You've got to think about customer, you've got to think about operating, and you've got to think about people when you do all these things.
Yeah, great.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's that triangle has to work all the time.
Yes. Yeah, great. Okay, sorry, I kind of jumped straight
Don't
into the
worry.
deep end, and I
Don't
meant to
worry.
pull back a bit, but I'm interested. So uh, Alchemists were backed or are backed by, is it Horizon Capital?
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, Horizon Capital.
okay, and how have they been? So they presumably provided at least some of the capital to take on the Rain Group,
Yep.
um, and and now was it experiential learning?
Yeah. So the Experiential Learning Group, or TELG.
Tell.
So which
Okay.
is three brands: PCA Law, PCA, and Ude Andrews.
Oh, right. Okay. So you've got quite a bit of
I've,
integration to
oh,
do,
I have
haven't
got
you?
quite a bit of integration too. Yeah. So Horizon Capital, mid market, buy and build private equity specialists, business to business services,
Yeah.
operate primarily in professional services or tech services, um,
Okay.
and tend to have a transatlantic approach to all their platforms.
Great.
So we'll either
Okay.
buy in the US and then add in the UK, or buy in the UK and add in the US.
Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant. And I guess this hints at some changes that have been happening in the training market and in the sales training market with the advent of AI technology platforms and all the rest of it. Where I mean, obviously we don't have time to go into the sort of detail of it, but how a lot of firms are facing this, a lot of consultancies are facing this in different respects. How are you thinking about that at the moment? So how does what's happened, the crazy change, pace of change with
Yeah.
tech, how's that informing your thinking?
Okay, great question. And I think I'll break it up into two distinct buckets. So number one, you can't be running a professional services consulting firm now without having an AI strategy. You just can't. So you can't pretend it doesn't exist. And because if you do, your customer's going to be asking you, so what do you
Yeah,
think about AI? What are you
yeah,
doing with AI? It's on every single round table, is at every single client meeting you have. So I think we, first and foremost, and that doesn't mean to say you need to become an AI thought leader. You
yeah,
just need to be aware of it.
yeah,
Sorry, Joe. Um, so I think there's two things. There is AI from a customer product perspective. So, how are you as an organization utilizing technology and AI in particular to make your customer journey better? So, I think there's two things. There is how you sort of integrate and think about AI as part of your go to market product offering for your customers,
yeah,
and how you think about the use cases for AI and running your consultancy for efficiency and scalability.
yeah.
So, and we have a distinct plan for both.
Right.
Um, we, as an organization, and we're not trying to change the world, because we are a human first professional services organization.
Good. Okay.
So we strongly believe, and our customers strongly believe, that the human still has an intrinsically critical role to play in not just learning, but professional development. So, but we are absolutely using technology and AI to create a seamless user experience at a learner and an organizational level. So,
Right.
for example, within sales development this year, we have introduced conversational AI to help with practice at scale.
Okay, that's working now, is it? I
It is.
tried it 2 years ago and it was still a bit laggy, but
It,
it's
I mean,
clearly improved.
technology's moved so fast.
Wow.
So you can now, and I must admit, I'm still, and this is a personal opinion, audio-based real play conversational AI is still better than video-based,
Okay, yeah.
and it is now frighteningly real.
But Stuart, listen, just audio was I'd spent a bit too much money and a bit too much time investigating the audio, so building some audio stuff, and this was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's changed so quickly, and
Oh,
now we're saying, oh well, the audio's okay, but video's a little bit laggy.
and it's really interesting, right? So if you're a professional services firm, and that's our audience, some of what you're competing against now is the same dollars or pounds that technology firms are trying to eat.
Yeah,
So we are dipping into the same discretionary spend within our customers now that technology firms are
yeah,
dipping into. So number one, you've got to be able to demonstrate value. So just reselling third party technology is not going to win. You're not going to win.
sure.
So what our approach, and it seems to be working at the moment, is to say, how do we take what we're really good at and how do we combine that with the best in class AI? So we are wrapping AI in services.
Yep,
So it's never a standalone. So we'll never just put a piece of technology into a customer and say, go and play.
sure. Yep.
We'll enable it through services. I mean, I have people in my organization now doing things I never thought I'd have people. I've got bot developers. So we are contextualizing bots into our customer organization. So it's so that when someone does a conversational AI role play, it is absolutely context driven to their
Yeah,
type of
great.
buyer. So
Yeah,
yeah, so it's got to be part. And then I think the second part of this is, and we are only at the beginning of this journey ourselves, is what can we do as an organization to leverage AI to make ourselves more efficient and more scalable?
yeah,
But the one thing I'm learning pretty fast as a CEO is, you've got to embrace it yourself.
yep.
You can't just delegate it and expect
No.
somebody else to go off and do it. And secondly, you've got to be super clear on what your use case is.
Okay, okay, and the priority of those use cases as
Yes,
well, I guess.
yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not. Once again, otherwise it just becomes technology for technology's sake.
Yes. Yeah, and that's difficult, isn't it? Because I've noticed some very close friends of mine who have always been very business focused. They almost get the AI bug,
Yep.
and all of a sudden the business drops away, and they're
Yes.
knee deep in revising code and look at this and
Yep.
the output's often great, but then the question is, will anyone buy it or will
Well,
anyone use it?
and that's it. And I think when you think about it from a value perspective, so value to your customer, value to your investor, value on a future exit, you've got to be really clear on why you made those decisions. You've also got to be really clear on when you decide to bring in a third party technology, when you decide to build something on your own.
Yeah.
So we're spending quite a bit of time, and we've invested quite heavily in the last 6 months as a professional services firm in the role that technology plays in our long-term strategy. So
Okay.
we've had some external people come in and help us, some experts, just to help challenge our own thinking
Yeah.
around who are we and how do we leverage technology for the future.
And just in terms of that process, were there any wow moments where you thought, oh, actually, this is different to how I thought it was, or has it have they just provided you with more detailed context that you already knew about?
It's a great question. I think two things. I don't know about wow moments. So a couple of things. It validated that broadly we've been trying to do the right thing, which was a
Okay.
good start, was a
Yeah,
good
good
starting
start.
point. But I think what it's highlighted to me, and this is when you start to talk about scaling a consultancy, that essentially what got us here won't get us there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so what I've learned is that now to go to the next stage of our growth, I've probably got to invest in some core infrastructure. And I don't mean physical boxes.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got to make sure that cyber and data and
Yes.
platform scalability and global support models. So things that we're not a tech firm, we're a professional services
Yeah.
firm.
Yeah.
But actually, these are all things. And I'm looking at then a roadmap that says Stu, you got to get ahead of this because
Yes.
otherwise your business is going to get there before you do.
Yeah.
So I think from a strategy perspective, it has absolutely made us as a board and as an operating team really focus on the role that technology and the people in technology play for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yes. Yes, and knowing where to draw that line around, what you can do yourselves versus what you need support with,
Yes.
um, buy and build. It sort of
Yeah,
goes back to the buy
it
and build.
does. It does.
Brilliant. Okay, listen. Let's move on a little bit. I realise I keep diverting
Oh,
us,
don't
but
worry, I'm all right with that.
so you've scaled from around $2 million to around $30 million into sort of more of a global footprint. What levers did you pull to allow
Yeah.
you to scale? I mean, obviously you've got the buy and build that we've talked about a little bit, but what levers other than that have allowed you to scale?
Okay, great question. And obviously it's something that from a value creation scalability perspective, I think about a lot. I think first and foremost, and I'll just say it again, I think that being in a position, particularly in professional services, to be able to do a buy and build approach does allow me to accelerate much faster.
Yeah,
So, organic growth in a services market at double digit on double digit year on year is challenging. I'm sure everyone that listens to your podcast knows that. So,
sure.
continuing to run a business that's EBITDA efficient, that is growing at 15 to 25% top line a year is hard work.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but number one, you can never get away from that. So you can never. So if anyone's listening to this thinking about how do you scale that fast, how do you get investment, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit, you've got the core fundamental underpinning that an investor will always come back to is, are you growing your organic base at double digit year on year?
Okay. It's a tough question, that, isn't it? Especially
It,
at the moment.
yeah, it's really tough. And it means, and if you're not, significant impact on valuation,
Yeah,
and also makes it quite unlikely that investor will get very excited. So,
sure.
so in the current market that's growing, the market's growing at single digit. Kind of my job, my
Yeah,
team's job, and those listening to your podcast is what do you need to do to get an underpinning double digit growth in a challenging economy?
yeah,
So I think that's probably the question. I think there's a couple of things. Number one is, once again, it comes back to control of your business.
yeah.
So, and I come from a sales background. Fortunately, I have a very good CFO that works alongside me, who's worked with me for a long time. I
They're
think
like gold dust.
they are,
Expensive gold dust, but gold dust.
yeah. And I think certainly in a services business, Joe, as you all know well, actually the role that the CFO plays is incredibly important. The CFO and the COO, I think, because essentially, how have we got to where we've got to? We've got really good control around our pricing.
Yep,
So we are making sure that we are giving our customers absolute value for money, but that we're not giving stuff away.
yep,
Number one,
yep.
but also not, and it's not just about revenue. We've got really good control around gross margin and contribution margin.
Okay, great.
So that and we measure it. We
Good.
measure it on a
Yep.
per customer, per project basis. I'm sure lots of your listeners do too. But fundamentally, that allows us to control the business. So that's really important. And then tied to that, and this is a thing that has come really hits us quite hard with scale. So when I was running a business doing, I don't know, 5 to 7 million in revenue, 1.5 to 2 million in EBITDA, you could get away with being pretty entrepreneurial
Yes,
from an
yes.
infrastructure perspective.
Yeah,
I think when we went past 10 million revenue and we globalized, the organization started to creak.
yeah, yeah,
So we've managed to platform the scale, because one thing buying businesses and growing businesses,
yeah.
but if you don't know how to run them and you can't integrate them pretty quickly and efficiency and then control them, you lose value in the asset pretty
Sure.
fast.
Yeah, yeah,
So we have made a significant financial and people investment in infrastructure.
yeah. Great. What have you?
So
What? So you've. I presume that's a PSA a CRM, all integrated into your finance system, that type of stuff. Yeah.
So we're on the path to integration. So obviously, when you're buying, particularly smaller founder-led businesses,
Yeah. Yeah.
you end up with if you're not careful, you end up with a bit of a spaghetti junction.
Yes.
So we made a decision 6 months ago to implement CMAP as our professional services automation platform across the organization.
Yep.
So that's gone into all brands. We standardized all invoicing and accounting onto Zero. So all
Right.
brands so we've got one finance system, one automation platform, one reporting platform. Next challenge is currently running two CRMs, so we're going to integrate those.
Great.
So and I think what that gives us then is one, and I think I've learned the benefit of this over the course of the last 12 months in particular, is we get to a single data source.
Yeah.
And the ability then not just to, when you've got 120 to 150 people spread out across 3 continents, gut feel becomes quite a hard way to run the business.
Yes. Yes.
So the ability to rely on data and insights is quite important. So we've done a lot of work around that infrastructure. We've also had to rethink a little bit the type of people we bring into the organization, particularly at a more senior level. So we've brought in some people that have experience of working in scaled or scale up businesses, rather than sort of people that have worked in a business with sub 10 people.
Cool.
You need both. You do need both. But I think in terms of how we've gone from sort of 2 million to 30 million, and I then pull it apart and think, well, so what are the key things? It is control, it is infrastructure, but you cannot forget entrepreneurship. You cannot forget the importance of, you can't just forget what got you here.
Yes.
You've got to remember and give access to those people that have helped drive your organization. So I'm fortunate I get to work in an environment where not only do I have core teams of people that are growing with me, but every time I make an acquisition, I quite often acquire founders.
Okay. Yep.
And unlike maybe some other private equity vehicles, I'm quite often keen to keep the founders in the infrastructure.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I now have founders in Australia, I have founders in the UK, I've got founder teams in the US, but they're woven into the fabric of the leadership team.
Yeah, great. And they're entrepreneurial by nature, of course,
They
and
are.
very often they leave when they feel part of the Borg. And so
Yes.
if you can harness that entrepreneurial nature into, your innovation strategy, or, some of the tech stuff that you're doing, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think also quite a lot of the time those founders have been instrumental in building customer relationships.
Of course, yes.
And one of the mistakes people who do my job sometimes make is think, well, I don't need that founder anymore. I could just replicate it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll put person X into what they used to do. And I'm not convinced that is the right answer most of the
No.
time.
No, if you're going to do that, it's going to be different. So
Yes.
you're probably going to have a dip,
Yep.
and it's a different type because, as I often say, if to founders or owners, if you want someone like you, they're probably running their own company.
Yep. 100% agree. I
Um,
100% agree.
so you've got to build. If you're looking to leave, you've got to build something that's different.
You
And don't
do.
get me wrong, the trusted advisor relationships is, what this is your area. I don't know what I'm talking to you about, but the whole trusted advisor is something that partners should aspire to.
Yes.
But very often partners are quite young and they haven't got
Yes.
that 30 years of network building to behind them.
Yeah, and what I think having particularly founders or founding partners in an organization does, you have to be super clear with them as part of acquisition and integration what their job's going to be.
Okay.
You've got to be super clear, because if they're used to day one, so day -1, they run everything.
Sure. Yep.
Day +1, they've 9 times out of 10 handed over the keys to their baby.
Yep.
And so what you've got to do as part of that process is be really clear in that transition. What do you stop doing on day +1 that you were doing on day -1?
Okay.
What do you start doing? What do you continue doing? And
Right.
actually, I'm going through this process right now with the two founders of Experiential Learning Group, and they've been great because they knew as part of the acquisition process their roles would change.
Yes, and if that's managed well, it can be a very positive
Oh,
experience because
huge.
you can sometimes you can say, look, you don't have to do the stuff you hate anymore because we've got
Yes.
somebody who loves doing that stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that is a big part of when I think about what we're building from a platform perspective. Part of the attractiveness, if you're a founder-led business in our space with a relatable value proposition product set of customers, is actually a lot of the heavy lifting around infrastructure scaling we've done.
Yeah,
So you have a choice as a founder, then you go, do I spend my own money trying to do that? Or do
yep,
I find a home that I can plug my business into
yes,
that can help me do that? And that's kind of the attractiveness of our platform, I think.
yep. Yeah, great.
Sorry.
Okay. We talked a little bit about Horizon Capital.
Yes.
So I mean, obviously, you're not going to say they're the worst in the world because they've enabled the growth. They've
Yep.
contributed to your pension, and they pull some of the strings. But what advice would you give an owner that was considering private equity in investment and how to make that work? Because obviously, some founders are there's still a reputation from the 1980s. Some of the
Yep.
PE firms of sort of the Wolf of Wall Street style. Uh, so
Yes,
so
it's a
how
great
how
question.
how have you made that work? What advice would you give?
So it's a really good question, and I think you absolutely. And I have this conversation with founders a lot. Um, and I guess I'm now a private equity backed, what we called a private equity backed trade vehicle. So in a lot of ways, for founders joining my business, I act as that buffer.
Sure. Yep.
So, but I think thinking that you're going to go into a private equity vehicle and that your world isn't going to change is a big mistake. So, so I think the advice I tend to give people is number one, the level of rigor and professionalism that will end up being wrapped around your business, particularly from a finance perspective, will change overnight.
Okay.
Like literally overnight. The expectations of financial visibility, forward forecasting, reporting, insights, analytics on everything you can possibly imagine will change. But I think the underpinning is that most of the time, the thing that people have to remember is you are selling the majority shareholding in most cases to private equity. So
Yep.
they essentially become your owner.
Yep.
Difference being between so a private equity firm versus a bank. Private equity are only interested in value creation. It's not, whereas banks are only interested in risk management.
Yep.
So they'll lend you the money, and all they want to know is you're not going to go bust and that
Yes.
you can afford the repayments.
Yep.
Private equity, you go in with your eyes open, knowing that it is a financial engineering mechanism to drive intrinsic value growth fast.
Yep.
It is not a 15-year
Yes.
investment. It's a 3 to 7 year investment
Yes.
that you have to be. And I'm actually pretty comfortable operating in this environment now. They will join your board. You will have
Yep.
at least one investment partner on your board.
Yes.
They will be active in key decision making. They will be active in strategy. It's not that you take the money and then you see them in every 6 months. You'll be talking
No.
to them a lot.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
embrace that. They bring knowledge from other portfolio companies. But I think there's a couple of things that I thought about coming into this morning, Joe. Like, what advice could I give? I think number one is you've got to embrace it. If you think you're going to be part of a private equity vehicle and carry on doing what you were doing before, ain't going to happen. Number one.
Sure. Yep.
Number two, the relationship with your investment team is incredibly important. So when I exited Alchemist to Horizon in summer 24, I spent a lot of time with my two investment leads at Horizon
Okay.
before we did the deal, like a lot of time, because fundamentally I knew that for the next 7 years, we'd be spending a lot of time together.
Yes.
And to your point, I was essentially not only trusting my own career, but also 100 other people's.
Yep.
In fact, that I get the decision right.
Yep.
I mean, there is huge value you get if you can get the relationship to work the way it should work.
Yes. Yep. And
Um,
that's not just down to you. It's also
no,
down down to them and having the right people and expertise as well, isn't it?
It is. And I also think it's being really clear. And my team, my investment team, Horizon, were really good with this actually. That quite a lot of the time, and it's different. So I work with a mid-cap private equity firm. So they don't have lots of operating partners and experts. They have investment leads.
Yep.
Those investment leads make it very clear that they're not operators. They've not run businesses. They've not been CEOs. They've not been COOs. They've not been salespeople. They're investors.
Yes.
So in bigger private equity, and I may well experience this in the future, where you have operating partners, you have former execs who now work for the fund who might be in helping you with certain functions in your business. I don't have that.
Yep.
So actually being really clear up front on if you feel that your investor is trying to tread on your turf from a position of not understanding it, you've got to help them understanding it.
Yeah. Yes.
You can't
Yeah.
just say, go away. That's not your turf. You've got to be able to have a conversation which is help them understand, usually through data, what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
The other piece of advice I would give is, and I've learned this certainly in the last 18 months, Joe, be really clear on your investment cases. Do the work up front
Yep.
and take it very seriously. So, right, go on,
It's
sorry.
an educational process, isn't it? Because
Very.
with the best will in the world, many CEOs prior to investment will make decisions on a hunch or with a
Yep.
little bit of data, or they've spoken to
Yep.
someone in the pub.
Yep.
I'm exaggerating to make my
I know,
point.
but I know what you mean.
And
I
then
know what
all
you
of
mean.
a sudden, when you have to actually build the business case and think about it as it's other people's money that they're investing, it actually, I think it can be a very useful process for some
Yes.
owners.
It's an incredibly useful process because it does make you think about all the different aspects of whether you're spending 5,000, 50,000, or 500,000.
Yep.
It really makes you think about what are the upsides of this investment I'm making? What are the risks?
Yep.
What
Yep.
are the impacts? How do I know if it's working? How am I going to measure it?
Yeah,
So,
especially with tech. In
yes.
at least in my experience, it's very easy to focus on the tech, and isn't it wonderful? And wow, look at this! When people see it,
Yep.
they'll definitely buy it. Whereas when you're building the investment case, you have to think, well, what's my route to market? How much are people going to pay? And what's the
Yep.
competition? And who
Uh,
cares?
yeah, 100%. And also, what's my ROI and when am I going to see it?
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
Yes.
completely with you. So I think a private equity relationship can be incredibly valuable, but it is not a decision you make lightly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to, yeah. And I spend quite a bit of my time talking to founders and CEOs of businesses that are thinking about making the step into private equity for the first time.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I've just finished an ebook on this actually, based on some interviews with people with owners that have got private
Yeah,
equity, and we're mirroring a lot of the stuff. So it's very reassuring.
that's good.
Yeah. Good. um, I wanted to talk a little bit about culture. I was doing a bit of digging prior to the podcast, and there was a testimonial that you gave for a firm called Culture 15, which was all about sort of putting culture front and center in
Yep.
M&A. And I think you've described yourself as the guardian of the organization's people and culture, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, culture's notoriously slippery and hard to define. So
Yep.
why is it important, and what have you done to show the value of that importance,
Okay.
enhance the value?
Yeah. So great question, Joe. I think there's a couple of things. I think we are professional services businesses, so our intrinsic value is only in the people that work for us. I think there's a few things. My firm, whilst it has technology, whilst we have some product, fundamentally the value of the organization is the people. And going from being a really small firm with 10 people and growing that organically is one thing because you can help those people help you set your culture. They help you, intrinsically whether or not your culture levers are working.
Yep.
But when we got to the point of saying, well, we're actually going to add some more people to this, we're going to buy some businesses, we're going to integrate those businesses, but we don't want to affect our culture because our culture is really important to us. It was about how do we do some form of diagnostic that took you beyond word matching values.
Yep.
Because in a lot of cases, and I see people do this with clients, I see them doing
Yeah.
it in M&A. They go, well, our values are X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Yours are A, B, C. They're quite similar, aren't they?
Yes.
So our
Yes. Yeah.
cultures must be quite similar. Look, the
Yeah.
mugs say the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think actually we went one step further, and our chief people officer drove a piece of work around measuring culture. So what are the underpinning indicators of our current culture, and what are the underpinning indicators of behavioral level of our target culture? So we did that on the platform first, so the existing Alchemist business.
Yep.
And we then did that. We do that as part of an acquisition and onboarding process for anyone coming into the organization, which is how far apart are these cultures?
Yep.
So, and can we live with those gaps? And how, or do we need to bridge those gaps? So I think number one, being relatively data centric about it. But I think also the other part of this that I've done is making sure that people diligence is a really important part of M&A. Because when you go into M&A, lawyers and finance due diligence providers get very excited about spending 3 months poring over data.
Yep.
What often gets overlooked is, so who are the people that run the firm? Who are the people that sit behind the people that run the firm? What's it like to work in the company?
Yep.
So I have my team within the organization that will go in and essentially spend over the course of that 3 months different opportunities getting to spend time to try and not only just diagnose the culture, but work out what the integration and how the integration is going to work. And I think when it comes to value, your question around what's the commercial value, number one is, so we measure retention,
Yep.
we measure employee engagement, because fundamentally, if I have a stable, highly engaged consulting workforce,
Yep.
our customers are getting a very consistent high-end experience.
Sure.
I have worked in consulting businesses previously with high churn, like very high churn,
Yeah.
and disengaged workforces, and the customer is the person that feels it first.
Sure.
So we, and my business model relies on repeatability rather than recurring revenue. So we have long-term customers.
Yep.
I need those customers to get a consistent high quality experience. And a lot of that comes through people. So, I mean, I also made the decision very early on, Joe, that my chief people and culture officer would sit in my group exec team.
Oh wow. Okay. Right.
And I set off that way, and I've held that as we've scaled. So
Yep.
I have a really lean group functional team across
Who's
the
who's who's in it, Stuart? So who
um,
have you got in there?
me, largely because somebody's got to put me somewhere.
Sure.
So there's me, group CFO,
Yep.
group chief people and culture officer, and group strategy and M&A officer.
Okay.
So we have, there's four of us, and we sit across brands. And then within each brand, we have a vice president, senior level VP and culture,
Sure.
people and culture, because I want to make sure that our job in group is not to dictate to the brands how they run their businesses.
Yep.
We're there to enable them. So actually, but I make sure that every brand has a very senior people leader in it.
Yep. Okay. It's interesting because a lot of people would not have the chief people officer, but they'd have the chief marketing officer
Yes,
in there, or the
yes.
chief revenue officer. But I guess you're the chief revenue officer, are you? In
I guess I fundamentally am, and then my CEOs in my brands are accountable for brand level revenue.
yeah.
But
Okay.
when it comes to board reporting, when I sit in a board meeting with investors, I'm the one that's on the hook for
Yeah.
revenue.
Sure. Yes.
So yes,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. You touched there upon the tension between people first and sort of platforms and systems and processes and all the rest of it. And I'm interested just revisiting what we were talking about earlier in terms of your offering, because obviously most of the listeners to this would be professional services,
yes,
probably senior consultancy leaders, and you have a specialism here when it comes to sales training
yep,
and growth. um, what are the two or three top things that you might see in a smaller, say a boutique of, say 30 to 100 people
Yeah.
that commonly they're not getting right when it comes to sales?
Great question. Great question, Joe. I think there's a couple of things. The ability to replicate the sales capability of the founders or senior partners
Sure.
through the organization. So quite
Yeah.
often we see, and I had this myself, by the way. You often see there are two or three senior partners who do most of the selling, and the organization hasn't been able to replicate what
Yep.
they do. So they brought in account managers, they brought in managers, they brought in people lower down the sales hierarchy, um, and they haven't managed to replicate what they are selling.
Sure.
So some of it is around making sure that. So for my response, that would be: have you got a sales method? So even as a smaller business, have you got a consistent, repeatable sales method?
Yep.
So, that's one thing. I think the second thing is that we often struggle. What I often see in smaller organizations is: have you got a clearly defined value proposition? Or have you got a couple of really good sellers that are going out and talking to customers and say, don't worry, we can do that. So,
Okay.
and
Yep. Yep.
actually that repeatable, scalable value prop that is clear for a customer to understand and for sellers to be able to coherently talk about to a customer is
Mm-hmm.
really important. So
Yep.
often that's missing. Um, and then I think the third thing that I often see is missing is a lack of account management rigor.
Yep. Yep.
So the ability to manage and grow your existing customer footprint rather than just always seeking net new,
Yes. Yes.
um, but doing it in a repeatable and scalable way rather than relying on instinct.
Yep. Yes. I'm thinking of some clients I have at the
Yeah.
moment who could do with this.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because and I'll be honest, so part of what I've had to do running this organization over the last couple of years is that I am what's drinking my own champagne. I was going to use another phrase then. So we are now using, for example, our own sales method, our own sales tools, our own account management, our own strategic account management, and we're training all of the internal teams at Alchemist and other brands on our own sales method because I want to create a consistent language across the
Yep.
organization that everyone understands. Um, and I think that's something that you've got to make a commitment to rather than just happens.
Yep. Definitely. There's the emotional and financial and people commitment, and there's also the commitment in building, the resources and investing in the training
Yeah,
and having the structure and tech sometimes to support it.
it is, yeah, and I think it's really important, Joe. And I think the other part of it is, and I think is what you're talking to, is sales enablement.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it you can send sellers on a course, you can do marketing, can help you work on your value prop, but unless
Yep.
you're then cascading sales enablement through the organization,
And is that something that Rain or Alchemist helps with
um,
the wider piece aside from the training itself?
yeah, so we do have a wraparound consulting offer. So
Yeah.
um, where we will do, particularly in an enterprise opportunity, we'll do quite a lot of wraparound enablement work.
Yeah.
But uh,
Okay.
but but I think also, I mean, if I think about it through the lens of how we're doing it internally, I mean, there are some. We talked about AI and technology earlier, Joe. I
Yeah.
mean, some of the stuff that you can do with some of the latest things like Claude
Yes.
really, really blow my mind.
Yes.
So on how
Yes.
quickly you can get sales enablement materials of high quality into the
Yeah.
hands of your sellers,
Yeah.
which might have taken 3 months before.
And they're about to release Mythos, which is their latest model,
Okay.
which actually they've held on to because it's so powerful. They're worried about it getting into the wrong hands.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah,
Oh
it's
wow.
cybersecurity. Is
Yes.
cybersecurity shares have tanked because Mythos apparently will do it. Will attack you and then tell you how to prevent the attack.
Oh God. How frightening is that?
I know. Yep. Yep. Stuart, listen, I could talk for hours
Yeah.
with you, but I guess you might have some other priorities.
Yeah, I definitely have a busy day job. I definitely have a busy day job, and I think, I think part of it. Thanks for inviting me along. I hope some of what we've talked about is a value and of interest to all your listeners. Always happy to share that. Always happy
Brilliant.
to share it because I'm kind of bit like a lot of our people, I would imagine, learning as you go along, and
Yes.
always willing to share that.
Yeah, you're very generous with your knowledge, and it's much appreciated. All right, Stuart, thank you
Thank
for
you,
your
Joe.
time.
Lovely to
Cheerio.
see you. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.